In the vibrant and bustling village of Iwo, nestled amidst lush greenery and rolling hills, lived a community of hardworking and beautiful people. This village was ruled by King Obafemi, a wise and compassionate leader whose decision always reflected the welfare of his people. His reign was marked by peace and prosperity, making Iwo a place of harmony and contentment. Within this flourishing community lived two inseparable friends, Kemi and Bimpe. Their bond was as deep as the roots of the ancient baobab tree that stood in the village square. They grew up as neighbors, their homes just across from each other. Kemi was born into the loving family of Mr. and Mrs. Babajide, a household filled with warmth and laughter. Shortly after her birth, she was joined by a robust and lovely younger brother named Tunde. The siblings were incredibly close, their days filled with playful laughter and shared adventures. Together, they explored the wonders of their village, from the bustling market stalls to the quiet streams that glistened under the tropical sun. Across from the Babajides lived Afolabi and his wife, Bose. Bose had been married for over 5 years but bore a heavy burden. She had no child to call her own. The whispers and cruel words of her mother-in-law, Iyabode, weighed heavily on her. "When will you leave my son, you barren woman?" her mother-in-law would always sneer at her. "Your empty womb is nothing but a curse, and my son wastes his precious seeds on you." Such relentless torment pushed Bose into a deep depression. Yet, amidst this storm, her husband Afolabi remained her anchor. He was a kind and patient man who defended his wife fiercely against his mother's harsh words, always reassuring Bose of his unwavering love. In an attempt to lift her spirit, Afolabi suggested that Bose invite the neighborhood children, Kemi and Tunde, to spend time with her at home. This simple act of kindness blossomed into a healing routine. Bose found joy in their lively company, filling her days with games, laughter, and the sweet sounds of children's giggles. She prepared meals for them, her heart slowly mending as the emptiness in her home began to feel less overwhelming. One fateful day, Bose noticed something unusual. Her period had not come. A wave of cautious hope filled her, and when she confirmed her pregnancy, her joy knew no bounds. She rushed to share the news with her Folabi, who enveloped her in a heartfelt embrace, his happiness mirroring her own. The months that followed were filled with anticipation and community support. Mrs. Babajide, recognizing Bose's kindness towards her children, became a frequent visitor. She offered advice and assistance, guiding Bose through the milestones of pregnancy. Their relationship deepened, transforming into a profound friendship rooted in mutual respect and care. Finally, the day arrived and Bose gave birth to a radiant baby girl. Overcome with love and gratitude, she named her Bimpe, a name that resonated with beauty and blessings. Afolabi adored the name, and together they marveled at the precious life they have created. From the beginning, Kemi and Tunde embraced little Bimpe as if she were their own sister. They often visited, playing with her and helping to care for her, their youthful energy bringing vibrancy to Bose's household. As Bimpe grew, her striking beauty and charm captured the hearts of everyone in the village. Wherever she went, villagers showered her with admiration and praises, flowing effortlessly like the streams that nourished their land. Her presence seemed to light up every corner of Iwo, making her a cherished symbol of hope and joy. As Bimpe grew older, her radiant charm and beauty became the talk of the village. Compliments from neighbors and strangers alike were as constant as the sunrise, each word adding a sparkle to her young heart. She learned to accept these words of admiration with grace and a cheerful smile that only accentuated her loveliness. "You look so beautiful in your red dress. Who bought it for you?" asked Simi, a jovial market woman, her face lit with a warm smile. "Thank you, ma. My dad bought it for me," Bimpe replied, her voice brimming with excitement as her lips curved with a beaming smile. As the years went, Kemi and Bimpe, despite their age difference, became more than just neighbors. They grew to be best friends. Their bond was forged through shared moments of laughter and daily activities, whether it was attending school, playing games, fetching water, or washing clothes together. The two girls were inseparable. Kemi adored Bimpe like the sister she never had, and she too admired Bimpe's beauty. The constant attention Bimpe received from the villagers never sparked jealousy in Kemi's heart. Instead, she basked in the glow of her friend's happiness. When Kemi completed her elementary school, she enrolled in the village technical school, a place where teenagers could learn various trades. She chose sewing, a skill she took with her natural flair. Shortly after, her younger brother Tunde followed in her footsteps, opting to study agriculture to fulfill his dream of becoming a farmer. Their dedication filled their parents with immense pride, and words of encouragement were a daily staple in the Babajide house. Kemi's time at the technical school brought new experiences and emotion she never felt before. One day, while sitting under the shade of a large mango tree during lunch, her eyes fell on the boy around her age. He was tall, dark-skinned, and a magnetic smile that made her heart flutter. For the first time, she felt an unfamiliar warmth in her chest, her cheeks flushing as she stole glances at him. Her shyness kept her from approaching him, but in her heart, a quiet hope took root, a hope that one day he might notice her too. Kemi's feeling for him grew with each passing day. She could only admire him from afar, nurturing her emotions in secret. Meanwhile, Bimpe had completed her elementary education and joined the technical school. Her decision to study farming raised some eyebrows among the villagers, as many expected her to pursue a more traditionally feminine trade like hairdressing and tailoring. However, Bimpe's confidence and determination silenced the murmurs. She quickly proved herself, earning the respect of her peers and teachers alike. Kemi's days took on a new rhythm when Farin began sitting with her and Bimpe during lunch. One day, as they laughed and chatted over their food, Farin approached their table. "May I join you?" he asked, his deep voice soft yet commanding. Kemi's heart raced as she nodded, barely able to meet his gaze. Butterflies fluttered in her stomach as their eyes met, and Farin smiled warmly, while Bimpe animatedly talked about her day. Kemi stole shy glances at him, her emotions a swirling mix of joy and nervous anticipation. Bimpe, never perceptive, noticed the silent exchange but chose to stay quiet, not wanting to embarrass her friend. After Farin left, Bimpe turned to Kemi with a mischievous grin. You like him, don't you? Kemi's eyes widened as she quickly covered Bimpe's mouth. Shh! No one must know, she whispered urgently, her cheeks turning crimson. I have liked him for so long, and this is the first time we have been this close. Do you think he likes me back? Bimpe tilted her head thoughtfully before replying with a reassuring smile. I might only be 17, but I know love when I see it. He likes you, Kemi. You can tell by the way he looks at you. It won't be long before he says something. Kemi's heart swelled with hope. I really hope so, she murmured, her voice soft with longing. If he does, I want him to be more than a friend, maybe even my husband someday. Bimpe chuckled. Take it slow, Kemi. Let things happen naturally, or you might get hurt. Their laughter echoed as they returned to their classes. But Kemi's hope remained pinned on Farin. Though he continued to join them during lunch, Kemi began noticing subtle details that nibbled at her confidence. Farin seemed to pay special attention to Bimpe, offering help and sharing smiles that made Kemi's heart sink. Bimpe, determined to clarify Kemi's feelings, she decided to take matters into her own hands. She could no longer ignore the doubts creeping into her heart. She resolved to bring clarity to their feelings and perhaps even play matchmaker if Farin was too blind to see what or who was right in front of him. The sun had just begun coming down, painting the sky with hues of orange and gold as Bimpe walked towards the back of the school where she had asked Farin to meet her. Her heart raced, not because she harbored romantic feelings for him, but because of the delicate conversation she was about to initiate. When she arrived, she was surprised to see him already there, leaning casually against a tree, his face unreadable. Hey, she greeted, smiling nervously. I wasn't expecting you to come so quickly. You must be anxious to know what I want to talk about. Farin returned her smile, his lips curving slightly as he nodded. Let's sit, Bimpe suggested, gesturing to a shaded spot beneath the tree. Settling down, Bimpe took a deep breath, her fingers fidgeting with the hem of her dress. This might be awkward, she began, her voice tinged with nervousness. But I really need to say this, she paused, meeting his gaze. I am sure you have noticed the way my friend Kemi looks at you. She really likes you, Farin, and I think you like her too. So why haven't you made a move yet? You know she's not going to be single forever. Her words hung in the air like an unspoken challenge. Farin's eyes darkened, his gaze dropping to the ground. A flicker of something, hot perhaps, crossed his face. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet but firm. I'm sorry, but you have misunderstood. Confused, Bimpe frowned. No, I haven't. I see the way you look at her. You love her, just admit it already. Love is a strong word, Bimpe, he replied, his tone carrying a hint of frustration. And you have got it all wrong. What do you mean? She pressed, her eyes searching his face. Do you mind explaining? Farin sighed heavily, running a hand through his hair. Don't force me to say anything. Just accept what I have told you. Please, Farin, she pleaded, her voice soft. I promise to understand and help you in any way I can. For a long moment he was silent, his eyes locked on some invisible point in the distance. Finally he spoke. I like someone else. The admission hit Bimpe like a gust of wind, leaving her momentarily speechless. You mean you don't like Kemi? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Farin met her gaze, his expression unreadable. I thought you already knew. Shaking her head, she pressed on. Then who is it? Who is the girl you like? It doesn't matter, he said, his voice thick with emotion as he looked away. Yes, it does, she insisted, leaning closer. You are my friend, and I want to help. You look so sad. It's like talking about her makes you feel worse. Farin's lips tightened into a thin line. Drop it, Bimpe, he said sharply. I don't want to talk about this. Bimpe reached out, her hand brushing his. If she doesn't reciprocate, it's her loss. But maybe you could give Kemi a chance. She's a wonderful person. You might even fall in love with her. Farin turned to her, his eyes burning with intensity. Bimpe, stop, he said, his voice crackling. The one I like is you. The words seemed to tilt as his words sank in. Bimpe's breath caught in her throat, her heart pounding wildly. What? She whispered. Farin leaned in, his face so close that she could feel his breath against her lips. I have always liked you, he murmured. Your bubbly spirit, your kind heart, your smile, it's everything to me. I was waiting for the right time to tell you. Bimpe's eyes fluttered shut as their lips drew closer, the air between them charged with unspoken emotions. But just as their lips were about to meet, Farin pulled away abruptly, standing up and walking off without another word. Bimpe sat frozen, her heart hammering in her chest. Her fingers grazed her lips as she tried to process what had just happened. When she finally stood and walked home, a bright smile crept onto her face, despite the whirlwind of emotions inside her. She couldn't stop replaying the moment in her mind, her cheeks flushing at the memory of how close they had been. That night, she tossed and turned in bed, unable to think of anything but Farin's confession. By morning, she had resolved to take things slow. She wasn't yet 18 and couldn't date, but she could stay close to him as a friend. Still, a sharp pang of guilt nibbled at her. What would Kemi think if she found out? When she arrived at school in her favorite red dress, the one that always drew compliments, the buzz of excited voices greeted her. What's going on? She asked a classmate. Kemi and Farin, the girl exclaimed. They are a couple now. Everyone saw them kissing this morning. Bimpe froze. What? Her chest tightened painfully as her eyes searched the crowd for Kemi. When she spotted her best friend laughing beside Farin, an ache settled in her heart. Kemi didn't even glance her way. For days, Bimpe felt the stink of her best friend's absence. Kemi ignored her completely, and even when Bimpe visited her home, she was nowhere to be found. Finally, Bimpe confronted Kemi under the shade of a tree. Kemi, you have been avoiding me, she said. What's going on? What did I do? Kemi's expression was cold. You know what you did, she snapped, standing to leave. Bimpe grabbed her hand. Kemi, we are best friends. We tell each other everything. Do as you preach, Kemi shot back. I saw you and Farin that day. You went after him knowing how I felt. Realization dawned on Bimpe. You misunderstood. I only went to talk to him for your sake. I saw you two almost kiss, Kemi yelled, her voice trembling with anger. Tears spilled down Bimpe's cheek. Kemi, I swear, you saw wrong. We didn't kiss. After a long silence, Kemi sighed. I believe you, but next time don't interfere. Let things happen as they are meant to. Kemi smiled suddenly. Anyway, Folarin treats me like a queen already, she said, her laughter ringing out. Bimpe's heart clenched painfully as she spotted Folarin approaching them. Bimpe excused herself abruptly, under the disguise of needing privacy. She barely made it to the back of the school before collapsing onto the bench, tears streaming down her face as she buried her head in her hands. Her chest felt hollow, as though someone had scooped out her heart and left an aching void in its place. If only I hadn't insisted, she whispered to herself, her voice cracking. Nothing would have changed, right? The truth cut through her like a blade. She had pushed for clarity, and in doing so, she had opened a door she wasn't ready to face. How was she supposed to bear seeing Folarin with Kemi every day, knowing what he had confessed? Folarin, meanwhile, sat with Kemi, his gaze lingering on the path Bimpe had taken. Her abrupt departure nibbled at him, her pain evident on her face before she walked away. He clenched his fist, frustrated at himself for letting things unfold the way they had. This wasn't how he envisioned things going. He had wrestled with this decision all night after their previous conversation. Bimpe was younger than him, and his plan had been to wait until she was of age to pursue her. But doubt had crept into his mind. What if she didn't feel the same way? What if she found someone else while he held himself back? In his turmoil, he decided to date Kemi, hoping it would distract him from his feelings for Bimpe. Instead, it had only deepened the ache in his heart. As days turned into weeks, Bimpe avoided Folarin whenever she saw him with Kemi. She took alternate paths, avoiding shared spaces, and kept her interaction with Kemi cordial but distant. Watching them together was too painful, even though she had no claim over Folarin. She didn't know she was capable of feeling this way for Folarin until he confessed, and she wished he didn't. Time passed, and soon Kemi and Folarin graduated, leaving the technical school. Bimpe remained focusing on her studies alongside Tunde. Unknown to her, Tunde had begun to see her in a new light. One afternoon, he nervously asked her to be his girlfriend. "Tunde, I care about you, but I can't," she said. Gently, her voice filled with regret. "I see you only as a brother." Her rejection hurt him deeply, but Tunde masked his pain by quickly moving on. He began dating Omolara, a cheerful girl from the hairdressing class, and threw himself into the new relationship. For Bimpe, however, life felt stagnant. Everyone seemed to be moving forward, falling in love, starting new chapters, while she felt stuck in a limbo of unfulfilled dreams. One evening, her mother shared unexpected news. "Bimpe, I am pregnant," she said, her eyes twinkling with excitement. Bimpe's heart swelled with joy. "Really, Mama? That's wonderful. I hope it's a boy." Her mother laughed, patting her shoulders. "We will see soon enough," she said. The news brought a glimmer of hope to Bimpe's life, but her encounter with Folarin remained a source of torment. Whenever she saw him from a distance, she would change direction, a habit that didn't go unnoticed. Folarin cursed himself for the growing distance between them. He wished for a chance to fix things, but Bimpe's avoidance felt like a firm rejection. Meanwhile, Kemi had been nurturing her own hopes for her relationship with Folarin. As months passed, she expected him to take their relationship to the next level. When he didn't, she decided to take matters into her own hands. One evening, she prepared his favorite meal and brought it to his house. After they finished eating, she gathered her courage and spoke. "Farin," she began, her voice steady but laced with anticipation. "We have been together for months now, and I think it's time to take the next step. I would like you to meet my family." Farin stiffened, his jaw tightening as he turned to face her. "Kemi," he said slowly, "I have been meaning to talk to you about something, but there never seemed to be a right time. I guess now is as good as any." He took a deep breath, avoiding her hopeful gaze. "I think we should break up. I can't continue this relationship anymore." Kemi froze, her mind struggling to process his words. "What? Why?" she finally managed to say, tears welling in her eyes. "I'm sorry, Kemi," he said, his voice heavy with guilt. "I can't keep leading you on." Tears streamed down her face as anger and heartbreak consumed her. "You have been playing with me all along? How dare you?" she shouted. "I loved you, Farin. I gave you everything, and I was ready to give you more, but you rejected me every time. I don't deserve this." Farin stood, unable to bear her pain any longer. "I'm sorry," he whispered, walking away. As he left, the weight of his choices crushed him. He felt like a fool, trapped in a circle of hurting others while being unable to have the one person he truly wanted. He wished for some way to erase his feelings for Bimpe, but no solution seemed within reach. Kemi stumbled home like a shadow of herself, her heart shattered. Curling up on her bed, she sobbed uncontrollably, the sound echoing through the quiet house. When her mother returned from the market and found her daughter crying, she rushed to her side. "My child, what had made you so sad?" she asked, stroking Kemi's hair. "Mama, he left me," Kemi cried. "He said he doesn't feel the same way about me." Her mother's face hardened with determination. "It's his loss, my dear. You are a wonderful woman, and someone better will come along." "No, Mama," Kemi wailed. "I don't want someone else. I want him. He belongs to me." Her mother sighed, her voice dropping to a whisper. "If you truly love him, I can help you to get him back. There is a Baba who can prepare a charm. He will be yours again, just as your father became mine." Kemi sat up shocked. "What? Mama, you used the charm on Papa?" "Yes, and it worked," her mother said firmly. "But it's up to you. If you change your mind, let me know." Kemi wiped her tears, her mind racing. The idea of forcing Farin's love unsettled her, but desperation clouded her judgment. Bimpe gave herself some time, away from Farin and Kemi. Her mother soon gave birth to a healthy baby boy, a joyous occasion that lifted the spirits of the family. Around the same time, Bimpe graduated from technical school, her future appearing bright and full of possibilities. Yet, fate had its twist, and she was assigned to Farin's farm for her internship. Bimpe protested, pleading for a change in assignment, but her requests were denied. The elders in charge of placement insisted that Farin's farm, being one of the largest and most successful in the village, was the best place for her to learn more. With no alternative, she begrudgingly began her internship, her emotion a storm of reluctance and unresolved feelings. The first few weeks were awkward, but Bimpe avoidingly unnecessary interaction with Farin. But time had a way of smoothing rough edges, and gradually their conversation became more natural. Shared tasks led to shared laughter, and shared laughter led to moments of closeness. One fateful afternoon, while taking a break under the shade of a mango tree, their eyes locked in a way that words couldn't describe. Farin leaned closer as Bimpe didn't pull away. Their first kiss was tender and electrifying, as though two pieces of a puzzle had finally clicked into place. From that moment, they couldn't deny the bond between them. Within a month, news spread like wildfire. Farin and Bimpe were officially a couple. The villagers whispered in excitement, but not everyone shared the joy. Kemi, upon hearing the news, felt an uncontrollable wave of jealousy. She had always suspected that Bimpe harbored feelings for Farin, but she never imagined she would pursue him. The betrayal cut deep. Kemi's feelings of loss and humiliation festered, twisting into hatred. She was no longer contented to sit idly by. She wanted revenge. Slowly, she began to plan her revenge, determined to make Bimpe pay for what she saw as a deep betrayal. Farin didn't want to wait any longer. His feelings for Bimpe were undeniable, and he spoke to his family about making their union official. A date was set for him to meet her parents and formally seek their blessing. When Farin shared the news with Bimpe, her joy was immeasurable. She could hardly contain her excitement, dreaming of a life with the man she loved. She told her parents, but they decided to keep the event small and intimate. However, secrets are hard to keep in a village, and soon the news reached Kemi's ears. Kemi's rage deepened. What does she have that I don't? She muttered bitterly to herself. She has always been a thief, stealing attention, stealing opportunities, and now stealing my happiness. Her mind churned with vengeful thoughts as she vowed to make Bimpe suffer in ways she could never imagine. Kemi's opportunity came when Bimpe visited her shop a week before the marriage. Bimpe bought new clothes for Kemi to sew for her, choosing her favorite styles and trusting her friend to make everything perfect. The two chatted lightly, avoiding any mention of the impending marriage. Bimpe left without suspecting anything, while Kemi's malicious grin grew. You little tramp, Kemi muttered as she ran her fingers over the fabric. Just wait, I will push you so far into darkness that you will never be able to return. On the day Bimpe came to try on her dresses, she was filled with excitement. The first outfit was beautiful, and the second, a stunning red floral lace dress adorned with golden details, took her breath away. Kemi, you have outdone yourself, she said, admiring her reflection in the mirror. But as she admired herself, something unimaginable happened. A strange sensation coursed through her body. Before she could scream, she found herself transformed into a goat, a white and black speckled goat, still wearing the beautiful dress. Kemi burst out laughing, grabbing a stick and beating the bewildered animal. Bimpe bleated in panic, recognizing her new form. She bolted from the shop, her mind spinning with disbelief and betrayal. She ran to her family's house, hoping someone would recognize her. But she could only watch helplessly as preparations for her marriage continued. Kemi basked in her triumph, smugly reflecting on how perfect her plan had worked. She had visited a priest, seeking a charm to eliminate Bimpe from her path. Initially, she wanted Bimpe dead, but the priest warned her of the severe consequences. Reluctantly, she settled on the spell to transform Bimpe into a goat. The priest had given her a button that he had casted a spell on, and instructed her to place it on Bimpe for a few moments. When Bimpe visited her shop, the timing had been perfect. As night fell, Bimpe wandered aimlessly, her mind reeling. She had no choice but to leave the village, knowing she was vulnerable to be captured and slaughtered if she stayed. She found a dark cave and collapsed inside, her thoughts a tangled web of despair and disbelief. Back in the village, Bimpe's parents grew worried when she didn't return. Her father searched for Farin's house and even Kemi's shop, but found no sign of her. Panic spread as the villagers searched the area, but it was as though Bimpe had vanished into thin air. Farin was heartbroken. Why would she disappear just days before our wedding? He wondered. The villagers speculated, but no answers emerged. Bimpe's parents were inconsolable. Her mother, already weakened from childbirth, was a shadow of her former self. Her father sought spiritual guidance from priests, but they only saw darkness. Should we assume she's dead? He thought miserably. But how? Where is her body? Meanwhile, Kemi watched the chaos unfold with satisfaction. She believed she had won and now set her sight back on Farin. As Kemi approached Farin's hut, the faint scent of palm wine mixed with the evening air, signaling his state even before she stepped inside. She found him slouched on a wooden chair, a half-empty gourd of alcohol on his table beside him. His eyes, heavy-lidded and glassy, barely focused as she entered. "What are you doing here, Kemi?" he slurred, his voice thick with drink. "Wow," Kemi said, a sly smile forming on her lips. "Even in this state, you recognize me. That can only mean one thing. You still love me. Admit it, Farin. You have always loved me." She cupped his face in her hands, tilting it up so she could look into his eyes. But her hopeful expression faltered when he chuckled bitterly, pulling away. "Kemi, I never loved you," he said, his words cutting like a blade. "I will never love you. Bimpe is my only love. If she's never found, I may marry another woman, but it will never be you. The sooner you accept, the better for you." Kemi's face darkened, her fingers curling into fists. "You are playing hard to get," she hissed, her tone laced with venom. "But a time will come when you will beg me, and I will refuse you, just as you have refused me." "Leave my heart," Farin said, his voice weary. "I want to sleep." As she stormed out, anger and desperation churned within her. What kind of spell did Bimpe use to make him so devoted to her? She thought bitterly. When she reached home, she shared her frustrations with her mother, who listened with a knowing look. "Don't worry, my child," her mother said, placing a hand on her daughter's shoulders. "We will visit the priest tomorrow. He will help you win him over." The next day, Kemi and her mother stood before the priest in a dimly lit shrine. The air was heavy with scent of incense as the priest began his incantation, his voice low but rhythmic. "Close your eyes," he instructed Kemi. "Picture Farin in your mind. Focus on his face." A smile crept across her lips as she envisioned the man she so desperately wanted. "Open your eyes and look into this calabash," the priest commanded. Kemi's breath caught as she saw Farin's image reflected in the water, sitting outside his hut with a sorrowful expression. "Call his name into this bottle 3 times, the priest said, handing her a small glass jar. "Farin," she whispered, her voice trembling with excitement. "Farin, for Farin, as she sealed the bottle with its cork. She saw Falarin's image shimmer inside, and a smirk crossed her face. Now listen carefully, the priest warned. There are rules. You must never sleep with him during the full moon, and he must never pay your bride price. If either rule is broken, the consequences will be deadly. Kemi frowned. Why all these ridiculous rules? Watch your tongue, the priest snapped, his eyes flashing with anger. The gods are not to be mocked. Every choice has its consequences. Disrespect them, and you will lose more than you bargained for. In the village, it was said that charms always exacted a price. The elders often warned, you cannot trick the gods without losing something precious in return. Her mother quickly intervened, bowing her head. She apologized, my priest. She will abide by the rules. Thank you for your help. As they left the shrine, Kemi's heart swelled with triumph, though her dreams of a grand wedding faded. Do not be sad, her mother consoled her. He is yours now. That's what's matters. The next day, Kemi packed her belongings and moved into Falarin's hut. When he saw her, a rare smile lit up his face. Darling, you are here. Let me help you with that, he said, taking her bag. Kemi basked in his attention, feeling a surge of satisfaction. But later that evening, Falarin's expression grew troubled. What's wrong, my love? Kemi asked, placing her hand on his arm. I don't remember us getting married, he admitted, confusion clouding his features. But somehow I know you are my wife. It's strange. Don't worry about that, my dear, Kemi replied, pulling him close. All that matters is that we are together now. Come hold me. Let's make love. As they lay together that night, Kemi's heart soared. She had finally claimed the man she loved, and he held her with a passion she had only dreamed of. It wasn't long before whispers spread through the village. People wondered how Falarin and Kemi had married so suddenly, especially so soon after Bimpe's disappearance. Many suspected foul play, but dared not voice their suspicion without proof. Bimpe's parents were distraught. Far from the village, Bimpe struggled to survive. She navigated the wide bushes cautiously, avoiding predators and seeking shelter wherever she could. One morning, Kule, a young hunter known for his bravery, ventured into the forest. As he tackled game, he spotted a beautiful speckled goat grazing near a stream. What's a goat doing out here? He murmured. After a brief chase, he caught the goat and brought it back to his hut. He gave it some grasses and water, but the goat had refused to eat for days. What a strange creature, he mused. One evening, as Kunle ate a mango, the goat approached him curiously. He placed one on the ground, and to his surprise, the goat eagerly devoured it. From then on, he brought back fruits from the market for his unusual pet. One day, as he brushed the goat's fur, Kunle noticed a small ancient-looking button hidden beneath its hairs. Intrigued, he reached for his knife, intending to examine it closely. The goat, sensing danger, bolted, but Kunle held firm on the rope, determined to uncover the mystery. Kunle sat beside the strange goat, holding the small ancient-looking button in his hand. He hesitated for a moment, unsure if cutting it was the right thing to do. With a deep breath, he used his knife to sever the button from the goat's fur. What happened next left him frozen in shock. Before his eyes, the gold began to shift and transformed into a young, beautiful woman. Where the goat once stood, a young woman lay naked on the ground, her body trembling and her chest heaving as though she had been freed from some terrible curse. Kunle blinked, his heart racing. When his senses returned, he quickly grabbed a wrapper from inside his hut and draped it over her. "Here," he said softly, his voice trembling as he avoided her gaze. Bimpe pulled the wrapper around herself, her hands shaking. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice weak. Kunle brought her some food and water, and she ate hungrily, savoring each bite. He watched her closely, still trying to process what had just happened. Later, after she had cleaned herself and changed into some spare clothes he offered, they sat by the fire in an awkward silence. Kunle wanted to speak, but the words refused to come. His eyes kept drifting to her face, which, despite her ordeal, was strikingly beautiful. After several minutes, Bimpe broke the silence. "Thank you for not killing me," she said, her voice steady now, "and for taking care of me even though you didn't know who I was." Kunle finally found his voice. I couldn't have done anything else," he said, smiling faintly. Over the next hour, Bimpe told Kunle everything. How she had been cursed, how she had survived the wilderness, and how hopeless she had felt. Kunle listened intently, captivated by her story and her resilience. "I promise to take you back to your village," he said earnestly, "but only when you are ready." As the days passed, Bimpe began to feel something new. Kunle was kind and attentive, always watching out for her without overstepping. She noticed how his eyes would linger on her when he thought she wasn't looking, and how he would subtly create opportunities to spend time with her. She couldn't deny that she felt something for him, but the thought of Farin still tugged at her heart. For months, Kemi and Farin lived together as husband and wife. Their lives seemed fake to the outsiders. One night, as he returned to bed after relieving himself, he found Kemi sprawled suggestively on the bed. Her thighs and chest were exposed for him to see. Farin, enchanted by her beautiful body, succumbed to the heat of the moment. He kissed her passionately as they made love. It was what Kemi had always longed for, believing it solidified their union. Weeks later, Kemi began to feel strange. When she shared her symptoms with her mother, they both concluded she was pregnant. She was overjoyed, and when she told Farin, he was happy as well. Months later, Bimpe and Kunle returned to the village. Her parents were overwhelmed with joy, tears streaming down their faces as they embraced her. Her younger brother, now taller and more mature, hugged her tightly. As they caught up, her parents told her everything that had happened in her absence. When Bimpe learned of Kemi's betrayal and how Farin had been manipulated into marriage, her heart sank. The anger she had suppressed for so long bubbled to the surface. That evening, she made her way to Farin's hut, her emotions in turmoil. When she arrived, she saw Kemi first. Kemi froze, her face pale as though she had seen a ghost. Before she could speak, Farin emerged from the hut. His eyes widened as he whispered, "Bimpe." Before anyone could say a word, Kemi screamed in agony. Her stomach began to glow and became translucent, revealing a dark shadow within. The villagers who had gathered around watched in horror as the shadow took form and burst out of her body. A monstrous creature that leaped into the night. Kemi collapsed lifeless on the ground. The crowd gasped, and Folarin fell to his knees trembling. "I'm sorry, Bimpe," he sobbed. "Please forgive me. I didn't know what I was doing." Bimpe looked at him with calm resolve. "I hold no grudges against you," she said softly. "I forgive you, Folarin. You have always been the one I love, and I will always love you to the end of time," she said as she hugged him crying. Kunle stood there with a sadness on his face. Folarin wanted nothing to do with Kemi's remains. Her family was called to retrieve her body, and the villagers whispered about the tragedy, piecing together the events that had led to her downfall. Folarin's family, who had distanced themselves from him, returned and begged for his forgiveness. They claimed that if they had known he had been charmed, they would have fought for him. Kemi's mother, racked with guilt, confessed her role in her daughter's downfall to her husband, who was so pissed at her. The next morning, she was found hanging from a tree, unable to face the shame she had brought upon herself and her family. As for Bimpe, her time with Folarin allowed her to heal. She discovered that the bond they shared was deeper than anything she had felt before. Together, they explored their feelings, slowly building a relationship based on mutual respect and trust. Folarin admired Bimpe's strength and resilience, while she appreciated his kindness and quiet courage. For the first time in a long while, Bimpe felt at peace, ready to embrace a future free from the shadows of her past. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this one. Please don't forget to like, comment, and share. See you in our next one. Bye.